Today, we're diving into the dark side of female psychology. We'll uncover how a woman can subtly control a man, and how a man, when he's in love, can lose himself completely, doing anything and everything for her without even realizing he's being controlled. We'll explore what Carl Jung called the female shadow, a hidden part of the feminine psyche that influences, seduces, and dominates, often without anyone knowing it's even there. If you believe that women are always pure, always kind, then I'm going to tell you something uncomfortable. You're still under their spell, and if that bothers you, you can skip this video right now. But if you're ready to see the truth, not just about women, but about yourself, then stay with me. Here's what we're going to explore in this video. First, why most men become slaves to the fantasy of a woman and don't even know it's happening. Second, how romantic love is often a clever disguise for the soul's desire to run away from itself. Third, and this is the most terrifying truth, when you finally choose yourself completely, the entire world begins to turn against you. This video is for the men who are not afraid to stand alone, for the man who dares to look in the mirror and not flinch. Let this video be your invitation to begin the dark, painful, beautiful journey of self-discovery. It always begins the same way. She doesn't see you as you are. She sees you as she wants you to be. Have you ever noticed that sparkle in her eyes, that hope, that hunger? You think, she understands me, but the truth is, she's not seeing you. She's measuring you like a blank canvas on which she wants to paint the image that's been growing in her mind. But here's the painful truth. That image isn't you, and it never was. Carl Jung warned us, not in a motivational tone, but like a surgeon who spent his life cutting into the human soul and staring into its darkness. Jung explored the unconscious, the part of the psyche that operates beyond thought, quietly running the show in the background, and he discovered something chilling. Women don't just fall in love with men. They fall in love with the idea they've built about the man. A fantasy, a projection, not the real you, but the version they created in their mind. And the scariest part, most women don't even realize they're doing it. You think, she chose me. But in truth, she chose the character in her internal story. You became a psychological puppet, a part of a script she's been writing in her mind. And the moment you no longer fit that role, she changes the actor, not the story. Jung called this psychological phenomenon animus, the inner masculine figure that exists inside every woman. And when it's underdeveloped or unconscious, it becomes a tyrant, a silent force that pulls women toward dangerous, powerful men and pushes away kind, rational, good men, because those men challenge the fantasy. They ask too many questions. They want truth, and that threatens the illusion. When morality is imposed without understanding and without self-reflection, Carl Jung didn't describe it with sweet words. He called it spiritual possession, a kind of psychological poison where women don't even realize they're no longer speaking for themselves, but are under the influence of their inner animus, the male shadow within. And men, you fall into it because no one ever told you how to recognize this game. You assume, if she desires me, she must understand me. If she chose me, she must have seen my soul. But the truth, she wasn't listening to your words. She was fitting your face onto the script of her own imagination. Have you ever wondered why she chose you? The truth is, she didn't choose you. She chose the role projected on your face, a role she's been imagining since childhood, a story, a script, one where she needs a hero. And you just happen to fit the part. But the moment that fantasy collapses, the moment the mask falls off, you're left stunned, broken, asking yourself, what did I even do wrong? Here's the truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped playing the character in her movie, the one that only lived in her mind. Jung called it the theater of the psyche, and the only way out is through a path called individuation, the journey toward wholeness. It's not easy. It's not glamorous. No one claps for it. This journey demands everything from you, especially the parts you've always run from. Your weakness, your fear, your broken truth. It forces you to stop blaming women and start seeing yourself, because Jung understood something that most men still don't. To become a man, you don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself. Your worth is not defined by someone's love. It's defined in that moment. And when you find yourself awake, alone, responsible, and fully alive, the man who has faced his unconscious can no longer be seduced by projection. He is no longer a puppet in someone else's fantasy. He becomes the author of his own reality. But what's the real tragedy today? It's not that men are being rejected. It's that men keep reshaping themselves just to be accepted. You call it compromise. You call it love. You call it a relationship. But Jung had another word for it: self-betrayal. He warned, men who ignore their psychological development become slaves to a woman's fantasy. They mold themselves like wet clay. You're no longer a man. You become a mask, saying yes to everything, agreeing with every desire, acting at every moment, until one day, you forget who you were before you wore the mask. And women, they feel it far more deeply than you think. The devotion you offer, thinking it's a sign of love, is the very thing that turns into her coldness. Why? Because as Jung said, the feminine instinct is not attracted to comfort. It is drawn to mystery. She is pulled toward the man she doesn't fully understand, the man she cannot control. The moment you open yourself completely, you erase your boundaries, lose your backbone. You don't become more lovable. You become invisible, replaceable, forgettable. And then comes the end. That fear. The fear that grips every man, and the fear of being alone. You don't want to be alone while being your real self. So you choose to stay fake just to stay with her. You can't survive without applause. So you keep living as a side character in someone else's story. But Jung said something powerful. As long as a man doesn't embrace solitude, he can never be free. He wrote that individuation, the path of becoming your true self, is not for the faint of heart. Because to walk that path, you must first die. And before you die, you must burn. Burn the false version of yourself you once built to survive, so that the real you can finally be born. When you burn the lies, truth is born from the ashes. But there's one thing almost no one dares to say out loud. Individuation is lonely. Terrifyingly lonely. Because once you begin walking that path, you start seeing things you can never unsee. You begin to notice the masks that people wear on their faces. You begin to see the games they play to feel safe. You begin to understand the lies everyone keeps telling themselves, just to believe that everything's fine. And when you try to share this truth with others, they laugh at you. They say, "You're cold, you're arrogant, you overthink everything." They say you are the problem, but the truth, you're not the problem. You're the mirror, and people hate the mirror that shows them their real face. Jung understood this better than anyone. He spent his life helping patients who were terrified of their own shadow, the dark, rejected parts of themselves they never wanted to confront. And women, Jung warned us, women often grow up in cultures where they are praised for running from their shadow. They are taught they're already pure, already emotional, already intuitive, already whole. But Jung never accepted that lie. He wrote that the greatest danger to a woman is her own unconscious animus, that inner male voice that speaks with false certainty, false power, and false morality. And if a woman never confronts that inner force, she becomes its prisoner. She starts projecting it onto every man, blaming every man for the war that's really happening inside her, a war she's too afraid to face. And you think, "I'll save her. I'm different. I'll love her so much, prove myself so deeply that she'll finally accept me as I am." But you forgot something. Projection doesn't work that way. Jung said, projection is a thief. It steals the real and replaces it with illusion. Unless both men and women awaken from that illusion, they will keep repeating the same tragedy, blaming each other over and over, without realizing they're just dancing with their own shadows. And then comes the most painful twist of all. The same woman who once saw you as her hero will one day see you as her enemy, not because you changed, but because you failed to fulfill the fantasy she had unconsciously projected onto you. She kept seeing you as a mythical character, one you never even promised to become. And when you can't complete that fantasy, she doesn't get mad at your truth. She blames you for the lie, the character she created in her mind, the version of you she wrote into her dream. Jung called this moment a psychological betrayal, a betrayal that happens when a person refuses to take responsibility for what's going on inside themselves. You didn't lie to her. You didn't cheat. You just weren't the character she had unconsciously assigned your name to in her fantasy. And that's why she's angry today. Not because of your flaws, but because you failed to play a role you never even knew you were cast in. There was no script, no warning, no dialogue handed to you, and yet you're being punished for not saying the right lines. Carl Jung once wrote something profound. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing the truth of their own soul. And nowhere is this more true than in love. When a man and a woman fall in love and enter a relationship, they don't come as whole individuals. They arrive as walking projections, carrying their incomplete fears, unmet needs, and unresolved childhood wounds, and they walk straight into the arms of someone they might not even truly know. You call it love, but Jung called it psychic possession. Like someone walking in a trance, you fall into the same trap again and again, each time thinking, this time it'll be different. But nothing ever changes. Why? Because you still haven't asked yourself the one question you fear the most. What if this is all my responsibility? You want to blame women. You want to say they're manipulative, deceptive, superficial. But if Jung were looking into your eyes, he'd ask just one thing. Then why did you choose her in the first place? The truth is, a man who doesn't confront the feminine within himself will always end up enslaved by the masculine within a woman. You're not a victim. You volunteered for the role of prisoner. You chose to play the fool, a character in someone else's fantasy, because facing your own incomplete soul felt even scarier. And this is where most people stop listening, because this is where comfort ends and responsibility begins. Jung never offered cheap solutions. No 3 steps to become an alpha male. No quick hacks for success. He offered only one thing, a brutal, lifelong battle where you must sit in the silence of your own mind and break yourself open until that voice inside you, the one that says you're nothing without her, finally dies. And trust me, that voice won't go down easily. It will whisper, you need her. You feel incomplete. Every man in some way depends on a woman's validation to feel alive. But Jung whispered a more dangerous truth. The man who needs nothing is the only man who is truly free. He doesn't need approval. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need agreement. Not even love. Just truth. His own truth. And when you reach that place, you're not cold. You're real. Grounded. alive, whole. And that's when the strangest thing happens. The very women you once tried to chase suddenly begin to chase you. Why? Because now you no longer need them. You smile, not because your heart is empty, but because you've realized something. She too is on a journey. She too cannot truly see another person until she awakens from her own illusion. And you can't save her. All you can do is what Jung did. Walk your path with such fierce dedication that your very existence becomes a mirror, reflecting truth to those who have the courage to look. Most will turn away, but a few, a precious few, will thank you. And that's when you understand the difference between being loved for the role you played and being respected for the man you became. And when that moment comes, when you finally stop pretending, something strange happens. People grow uncomfortable around you. They don't understand it, but they feel it. Your presence becomes heavy, not because you've changed, but because you no longer fit in their safe little boxes. You stepped off their stage. You stopped reading from their script. And without a script, they don't know what to do with you. Sometimes a man stops playing a role and becomes a real man. Carl Jung once joked, the gods have become diseases. What people once called divine possession, modern psychology now calls neurosis. And the sickest people today, they're the ones addicted to being validated. You think, I would do anything for her. She is my everything. That's not love, not according to Jung. That is a refusal to carry your own soul. Because when you place your meaning, your hope, your identity onto a woman, you avoid the burden of owning it yourself. But here's the twist. When she realizes she was never meant to carry your soul, she drops it. And no matter how loving she is, no woman can carry the weight of a man who refuses to carry himself. When that weight crashes to the floor, you feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her. Because in that very moment, when the illusion breaks, you finally stand face to face with the truth you've always known. Becoming a man was never her job. It was always yours. And now you have two choices. Blame her or face yourself. You can join the angry crowd, blaming women, calling them manipulative, fake, shallow. Or you can do what Jung hoped you would do, look inward. The lonely, terrifying, but freeing path where you complete yourself without needing anyone else to do it for you, because the woman you're chasing outside is actually a reflection of the part of you that you abandoned. Until you face that part, every relationship will be a performance, every connection, a transaction, every love, a lie. But the moment you embrace that shadow, the day you accept the feminine within you, you become the kind of man who needs no one. You don't chase, you don't perform, you don't try to impress, you just stand still, rooted, complete. And that is where the miracle begins. Now, you won't attract those women who love just a character. You'll attract the women who love the truth, and you'll recognize her because she won't ask you to perform. She won't want you to change your script. She won't love you for your fantasy version. She'll be a real person herself, not a goddess, not a fairy tale, but an awakened soul walking her own path. No masks, no projections, no games. And when you meet her, that real woman, you'll instantly understand. She won't make big promises. She won't say, you are my everything. She won't speak in terms of completing you because she is already whole. She's faced her fears, burned her illusions, confronted the animals inside herself. And so she doesn't need you to carry her. She will stand before you, not for you to bear, but to be seen. Not with a breath-holding hope, not with a grip, but with truth. And that kind of love, as according to Jung, is the rarest and the most dangerous love. Why? Because it's not born from need. It is born from freedom. The freedom to choose, the freedom to walk away, the freedom to stand together, without illusions, without masks, without fear. But listen, most of you will never see this because you'll stop. You'll give up before the turn where this truth is revealed. You'll settle for drama. You'll prefer living in fantasy. You'll remain a false hero because the scariest thing for you still is to know who you really are. But if you have the courage, that brutal, gut-wrenching courage, then keep moving. Stand alone. Peel back every layer. Shed every lie you wore to build your identity, because only then will you find her. Not just any woman, but yourself. And one day, you'll find yourself standing at the edge of the abyss where there is both fear and beauty. You'll find yourself. And when that happens, women will no longer be the source of your identity. They won't be the mirror you looked into to feel like a man. They will become something else. Companions, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not protectors. And then you will love them. Not from need, but from choice. From a place where you are strong, where you are whole, where you don't owe yourself any excuses to prove your worth. Time and struggle left no map for you. They only gave a warning. The man who refuses to face himself becomes a slave to others' projections, especially those of women. But they also left a challenge, and the challenge to fully choose yourself. The challenge to stop blaming. The challenge to stop searching for yourself in others' eyes. The challenge to stop waiting to be chosen, because the man who chooses himself fully, without hesitation, without bowing, can't be fooled by fantasy, can't be seduced by performance, can't be bound by scripts. He becomes the author of his own life. And if you've read this far, if these words have pierced deep inside you, then don't just scroll past this like another piece of content. Stop, take a breath, do something. Like this video, share it with a brother still lost in confusion, still searching for freedom in someone else's shadow. And if you want to hear more truth like this, subscribe to this page because your journey isn't just for us. It's for that next man who's still asleep, still looking for manhood and someone else's approval. Let's wake up the world one man at a time, because what you call love is really just your soul running away. You don't choose her. You run after her trying to escape yourself. But in this video, you'll learn 3 terrifying truths that will shake the very foundation of your masculinity. You were never really her lover, just a character in her fantasy. Your romance was the most beautiful illusion of your weakness. And if you choose yourself, the same world that was applauding you will start calling you dangerous. The Call of the Times warned us, a man who doesn't know himself is forced to live in a woman's shadow. And if you've been living in shadows until now, this video is your last chance to save yourself. Look, think, and choose yourself, because living by someone else's script is no longer an option.